change PDF expert to.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the regular board meeting of the Vallecitos Water District for September 16th, the year 2015. And it would be lovely if we started off with a roll call. First, the pledge, I forgot. Well, I was kind of stalling for my
Good stall, thank you.
Okay, since I got that mixed up, Director Martin will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we'll try roll call. No, we won't. I'm just ahead of the game today.
Going for a record on time?
Here.
I think Margaret has that, doesn't she? Here, Margaret has that.
Here.
I'm here. And I'd like to see if someone would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda for this meeting.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstain? Passes unanimously. Next item of business is oral communications, and we have one request from Michael Hunsaker. Have you had a chance to catch your breath?
Oh, yeah. Busy, busy, busy. Mike Hunsaker, 115 Equestrian Court, San Marcos. Sometimes when I go up before a government agency, I feel like the old joke about the mosquito that died in a nudist camp because it didn't know where to bite first. And I wanted to... It's all right. It was meant as a joke.
Just a visual.
But there's also a little truth in it. I want to talk about one aspect of the master water plan that's under discussion. There are many other issues, but the one that concerned me the most was mobile home parks. There was a study done on the water demands for various land uses. Mobile home parks are one thing that has been recognized as separate by Vallecitos Water District in its management. For example, a single-family dwelling is supposed to have a capacity of around 250 gallons per day. A mobile home, about 200 gallons per day, and an apartment around 180. From the water factors that I've seen, the bills, it is substantially below 200 gallons per day for a mobile home. I do want to emphasize that the name mobile home is often a misnomer. Most of the homes that we have in your district are not mobile homes, but manufactured homes on a lot. And there's quite a bit of difference. I've seen some water bills, and they show up to maybe 30 to 50 gallons per day per unit. This is about the most water efficient individuals you could have. And if you lump them in with single-family dwellings, you are overcharging these people for connection fees, facility fees, and we're dealing with fixed income individuals for whom $5 month increase means the difference between making a decision on food or drugs. I think this is a major omission in the master water plan, and it should be corrected. And this land use is a recognized separate land use. So finding where they are and what they are is fairly easy. Many of them have master meters. So all you have to do is get the master meter reading, divide by the number of spaces, and you have a figure. And I think that this group, these seniors, should be given a fair shake. You had an individual come before you last time about having to conserve and pay more water, and why there isn't any special rates. Well, let's make sure that we are not overcharging them. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing there are no others, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve, or do we need any items pulled for separate consideration?
Move to approve?
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as it stands. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Our next item is public hearing. It's going to be presented by James Gumpel. This will be regarding the resolution certifying as complete and adequate the mitigated negative declaration for the Rock Springs Sewer Project. Now, I've said your whole part. You can...
If you could, go ahead and open the hearing.
Oh, I have to
Yeah,
open it?
Go ahead and
Oh,
start
this
as
is
item
the
one.
time and place
Right.
for a hearing to consider adopting said resolution, and it's now open.
Yep, and with that, you're on, James.
Well, thank you, and I guess I won't repeat the title since it was already repeated. So with that, the board has seen this before. This is basically 8-inch sewer replacement along Rock Springs and through kind of a green belt area from 8 to replacing with 12 and 15-inch. Part of the requirement of doing a CIP project that's of this size is the environmental or CEQA process. With that, on April 15th of 2015, the board authorized circulation of the environmental document, which is a mitigated negative declaration, to go out for its 30-day public review or comment period. That 30-day public comment period ended on June 4th. With that, we got 3 comments and went ahead and addressed it. One of the comments was actually a compliment, and I want to point that out because I don't think I've ever seen a complimentary letter on a public review document for environmental. So, and I probably will never see one again. So
We actually
definitely-
framed it.
I was gonna say, frame it, frame it.
The other one was basically a standard form letter saying that we received the document. And the third one was from the Archaeological Society asking for additional mitigation to be put in, which it was put in our final document. With that, staff and legal prepared a resolution for certifying the mitigated negative declaration, and unless there's any questions, staff recommends adoption of the resolution certifying the mitigated negative declaration for Rock Springs Sewer. And with that, of course, filing the notice of determination with the county and resource agencies.
Thank you, James. Does any member of the board have any questions for staff?
So moved?
Well, let me ask if the public has any questions.
Okay.
They don't. Okay, it's been moved. I need a second.
Straight to number 8.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the resolution before us. Those in favor say,
This is a roll
roll call,
call.
board.
This will be resolution 1480. Director Oliver?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Director Snella?
Yes.
Director Evans?
Yes.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
All right, moving on to action items. Chris Rollins, would you like to do the drought update, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's been about 1 year since the district implemented level 2 drought restrictions. Some of the interesting topics to discuss is Governor Brown recently signed legislation that limited and basically an HOA's ability to restrict a homeowner from replacing their landscape with artificial turf. So this is something new. This was carried forward by the Water Authority, and there's been other recent legislation kind of similar with HOAs where HOAs cannot restrict a homeowner's ability to replace turf with low water use plants, and also can't really fine them for reducing their irrigation based on the governor's declared emergency. So some legislative issues. On page, I think it's 125 of your packet, we've got the information on the water consumption. And so again, good savings for August. The district's water production decreased 20% from 2014 and then 27% from August of 2013, so good figures there. I'd also like to share that Sean over in Water Ops keeps us kind of a running total of how we're doing. It looked a little, it wasn't a real good situation right after the Labor Day holiday. It was very hot, long weekend. People will tend to use irrigation when they feel the temperatures rise and they're home on a long weekend. They'll use it recreationally. So the numbers had come down right to the 24%. But with this nice rain we got, I think we'll be kind of back in the pike and looking real good and more in the 27% range by the time the end of the month rolls around. Residential gallons per capita per day in August was 93 gallons per day per residential, and that's compared to 2014, and customers were at 110 gallons per capita per day. So again, good savings figures there for August. Interesting thing to share is Lisa and Alicia, they kind of tag teamed and created this nice drought video that was placed on our social media, and I looked at it fairly recently, and 11,546 people have actually viewed the video, and just much more exciting than watching me talk about drought restrictions. Really, really fun, and a lot of, what's the right word? Viral, kind of went viral and really pushed out. Something that we're doing right now specifically is reaching out to apartment complexes and have flyers in both English and Spanish that we're pushing out, hand delivering and or mailing, and then we'll also be getting some printed door hangers up and distributing those to apartment complexes too. So really working to get the apartment complexes and the condos engaged as well. And then on your page 127, you can see kind of the drought calls have kind of just continued to drop. There was this big climb in May and June, but just kind of tapering. And that's telling us good things, is that people are complying and people are not noticing their neighbors over irrigating so much. So good in its way that there's less drought, less water waste phone calls coming in. Fiscally, the conservation measures have reduced water sales 20% less than budgeted. So it's mitigated by 0.2 million favorable budget variance. It'll net out to an unfavorable budget variance of 39,000 in net operating income, and so there's 8.4 million available in water replacement reserves. So there are some impacts from the water savings, but the conservation guy, happy to see the water savings. Happy to take questions.
Yes, Chris, one I wanted to know, approximately how many calls are you handling? I don't have it in front of me, and I'm sorry, I forgot. But even in general, or maybe it's for you, Dennis. We're doing
The
like
actual drought
4,000
calls is about 145, and that's what I just said, the next board meeting, you'll have the month prior.
Next one, second one,
It'll
thank
have the
you.
whole, it'll have the whole thing, and that'll give you the total cost we get per month, the different categories that it's broken down to. So that'll be in the
I
next
had
board meeting.
forgotten, thank you, I remember that now.
Yeah.
And the other one, I think I lost it.
To give you an idea, if you go to page 120, 125, the gallons per day per capita, 126. If you look back at December of 2014, we got down to about 50. So cold month, there was some rain, but right now there's a push across the state to get it down to 55 gallons per day per capita across the state period.
Really?
So if you look at where we're at,
Not
after having
another
conserved
mandate.
what we've done under emergency, and now take where we're at and tell them they need to cut another 40% on top of that. It's easy, well, it's not easy, but if you live in downtown San Francisco, where they're 55, 60 gallons per day per capita, okay, there's no yards, they don't wash cars, they don't do anything, versus some of the lawns. So that gives you an idea of how drastic some of the NGOs are looking to push this stuff. And it's going through consideration right now. And there's a feeling at the state, because we've already heard the rumors, that, wow, everybody did what we asked them. That wasn't a big deal. It didn't seem to hurt anybody. Well, that's okay to say from your office up in Sacramento, but the reality is it's hurt a lot of people. So that's starting to evolve, but now they're talking about, at the first meeting, and Director Evans will hear this at the board meeting at the Water Authority, is they went up for this meeting that they were gonna have to work with us on how we can get credit for like desal, because we're spending money, but we got no credit for it. The conversation went straight into making the regulations permanent.
So everybody got to the meeting and they thought we were gonna talk about credit for what we've built, as the lady spoke last time, talk about everything that's been done in San Diego so we can get credit for. Nah, they just were going straight into making them permanent next year. So it's an interesting evolution. So, it's gonna be an interesting ride next year, depending on what happens.
Excellent.
I
Yes,
have
Judge
a question,
Martin.
Chris. Have you found in yours, and I'm very happy with our district because we've stayed the course. Some districts have been saying, well, we've done everything already that we could possibly do, and we don't really have a shortage. Sacramento has a shortage. So people do get mixed messages. Have you seen that out there at all? People saying, well, I thought this person said we were okay. And
Yeah, those questions do come up from time to time, certainly, and what I try and push is there's always another thing you can do, and we're really going to push. I have a desire, we keep seeing the information about the El Nino that may come, and it may not really help the state so much, but we understand there's probably be some local rain. Really want to push to get our community to embrace the rain barrels and get those put in. So we're going to try some efforts to really try and get people to get a rebate and get $75, which can almost pay for the rain barrel itself, and get those rain barrels put in and make that kind of be kind of the next phase coming up for the winter time. Let's get everybody to get a rain barrel put in, and it'll all help us all out.
do you think that'll happen in this fiscal year?
The rain barrels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna push really hard for it. So, and there's rebate dollars available, there's rebates available, and may as well put a plug out there. I don't know if I'm supposed to do that, but got mine through Home Depot and they delivered them. So, I mean, rain barrel comes in a big box, and I got 4 of them. And so that was kind of my next step, and so now I want to kind of pull everybody along and go, okay, let's take that next step. You did this, you did this, you did this. Let's take this next step.
Is there a rebate now for them?
Yeah, absolutely, $75 per barrel.
And roughly what they cost?
So the ones I got were, I got 3 that were like 95 and 1 kind of fancy one. My wife wants the fancy one in the front yard. You know how that goes. And that one was, I think, 109 or a little more.
Oh, okay. And do we issue those rebates? or
It's through Metropolitan.
They get it through.
Yeah, through
They get it
Metropolitan.
through Home
through
Depot, wherever they
BeWaterwise.com.
buy them.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the Waterwise program.
Yeah.
Water
support.
yeah.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
More questions? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. All right, the next one will be 3.2, James Gumpel again, and it will be the desalinated water distribution presentation, which starts on page 129 in your packet.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This will be basically a presentation, and some of the directors have seen parts of this already, and it's meant to be kind of a full presentation that gives a little bit of background, because in the future, we intend to have public workshops and kind of give a whole background of desal coming into the system, what desal is, and also how desal will be integrated, and steps that the district staff and the district itself is taking going forward, educating the public on how that will look and what that will feel like as far as in our system. With that, it will be a little bit of a lengthy presentation, but good engineering model stuff that we can spend lots of time on. So, okay, so the Vallecitos Water District desal overview and integration strategy. So, really, the district service area, you can see we're still a growth district. We have 28,000 acres of land, and in the sewer areas, we've got a lot of growth. But the big number here to really talk about is based on 2013, we have about 97,000 people. I believe that number is up above 98,000 now. But really, every single member of our community is going to receive some blended desal, depending on the time of the year, whether it's coming through our aqueduct connections or our direct connection with the desal plant from the 54-inch pipeline. So with that, a little bit of understanding of our water facilities and how we move water around currently. So here's basically a synopsis of our water storage and our water facilities with our tanks, our reservoirs, our pressure zones, and pump stations. But the big important thing to point out here is our Twin Oaks facilities, our 33 and 40 million gallon tanks. up there. And later on in the presentation, it'll show how these tanks are kind of integral in how we move water from the Twin Oaks area to the majority of our population, which is kind of along the 78 Valley within San Marcos. So we move water currently kind of from the north to the south. Normally, obviously, we have other abilities and flexibility within our operations, but that's kind of how we normally move water. So with that, up in the Twin Oaks area, you kind of see where these tanks lie. This is an older picture, so the 40 million and the 33 are here. Up here, you actually have the new Water Authority treatment plant, which treats the water. Desal is going to be coming up. These are aqueduct lines that are kind of in the light blue or the cyan, and they're going to be blending it with the Colorado River water, the treated water, and then it'll be going back out into the systems. And that's how basically we will receive some blended desal, and the rest of the county will also receive blended desal. So current water supply issues, obviously we live in an arid area, and we currently have enough rainfall, if it rains at all, to support about 100,000 people. I've heard that number change over time, but I've always heard roughly about 100,000 people is what the county could support based on average rainfall. There's obviously a lot more than 100,000 people in San Diego County. So with that, Vallecitos does import a lot of supplies, and we're a member of the Water Authority, and that water is basically imported from several different areas. One of them is the Colorado River Aqueduct. That's 242 miles of aqueduct, and of course the Colorado Aqueduct, and then you have the California Aqueduct, which is over 400 miles. So this is a long way for water travel to get to our region. Really, it's a long way for water travel just to get to LA, and then it travels even further to get to our region. So California is one of 7 states that rely on the Colorado River. Obviously, our region, amongst other ones, really get some of our water supply and rely on the Bay Delta. And as the board is aware, there's a lot of stuff going on with the Bay Delta, including no water available for Southern California. Drought and pumping regulations are one of them. Obviously, the aqueduct, you got hundreds of miles of aqueduct. They're susceptible to natural disasters such as earthquakes. And these reasons are just some of the reasons that Vallecitos supports future desal and other recycled water or water resource opportunities. So with that, we're looking at diversifying our water portfolio, and what have we done so far to look towards the future? Well, the desal is 3,500 acre feet of direct to Vallecitos customers. So we're talking about 25% of our water supply on a current average annual basis. The Aluminum Municipal Water treated water purchase, that's about 2,750 acre feet. Roughly, it's a little bit less than 20% of our water supply there. So just with those two things, that's a large diversification of our water portfolio, which used to be just 100% from the Water Authority, and continued recycled water. Yes, sir, Mark?
Got a quick question. Olevenheinz treated water comes from what source?
It's still from the aqueducts in the Colorado, but it's not from the treated source. It will be coming from the raw water, so it's a separate pipe, but it's still from the same water source.
But in the case of a major catastrophe, we wouldn't be getting that water, right?
No, we still have desal water.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
And of course, you have future regional recycle watering efforts such as the North County Water Recycling Coalition. Yes, sir?
Just to go back to that, because I don't think I was aware that we were purchasing water from OMWD. You know, just looking at this strictly from a business perspective, the more middle people that you put into a process, there's markup along the way, right? Are we paying more for this water than we would if we just bought it directly, or how? Why are we doing it? I guess
we're actually getting a discounted rate. So we're paying for the raw water, just like a raw water customer would through County Water Authority, and OMWD is discounting the treated water rate based on what the Water Authority treats. So if the Water Authority treated water rates around 2%.
Yeah, I think we're getting 15% less than what, 20% less than what we pay from the Water Authority. Yeah.
Yeah, if the contract is, it floats, it's whatever the Water Authority, whatever we pay for treated water to Water Authority, we only pay 80%. So we'll always pay less
Always pay less.
than the imported water.
And it's a win-win for both agencies since they get to utilize more of their treatment plant.
Yeah, and to go back to Director Martin's comment on that is, it is obviously still state water project water coming in. The value of it is that it's a treatment plant next to a reservoir that when the water is shut down, if we can't bring water down to the region, there is water in the reservoir that they have the rights to. So we can still get water from their plant treated into our system. So there is actually treated water coming to us during a shutdown. And then they can actually get water into that reservoir from the San Vicente pump station. That's the Water Authority's emergency. They take it from there, they pump it up to Allegheny through Hodges. So that's the value to us, is diversification, that if the aqueduct's down, we still have a local raw water storage, and then we get treated water into the district.
That's good. Thank you.
And the good part is that they actually paid and discounted the capital of the pump station in the rate of what we're paying. So it wasn't like we had to pick up a capital cost of the pump station. It's actually part of the negotiated cost when Tom worked out the contract with them.
Not bad, Tom.
So let's talk about the Carlsbad's seawater desalination project itself. So it removes salt and virtually anything else from the water. It's been used all around the world, and it dates back for hundreds of years, this type of technology has been used. So it's evolved into a desirable water resource for us. And you have the largest reservoir in the world right next door, which is the Pacific Ocean, to tap into. The technology is used in over 120 countries, and this number I'm sure has grown, but roughly 3.5 billion gallons of potable water is produced each day from over 21,000 different plants around the world. But this is the first one in California. So, with that, it's also environmentally friendly. We don't have hundreds of miles of infrastructure to deliver that water. It's local, it's here, it's about 10 miles away. It uses modern day RO, or reverse osmosis technology, that's developed right here in San Diego County back in the 1960s. And the county itself still supports this industry. About 2,000 jobs, a little bit over 2,000 jobs, and over $200 million in revenue is produced locally supporting desal. So it's a public-private partnership with Poseidon Water. The plant will be about 50 million gallons a day, and again, it will be the largest of its type in the Western Hemisphere. With that being said, Vallecitos will receive 3,500 acre-feet a year, which is roughly enough to serve 7,000 homes for the year, or again, 25% of our current average annual. And the plant's expected to go online in the fall. Yes, Director.
A quick
Sorry.
question. With a permit change, isn't it the plant capable of doing more than that?
I know they would have to add additional RO and go back for a permit change, but I believe that there's a possibility within the structure, but I don't know.
Yeah, they would have to go through the full environmental process again, but one of the beauties of it is, like Jim said, is the technology was developed and is basically almost all of the cells for the, are developed here locally. So we're hoping as the time goes on, the permeability of them is going to improve. That unto itself will take up the capacity and hopefully lower the power. Because if you can get more capacity than lower the power demand, that's kind of the mitigation offset.
Right.
So, but who knows when or what that will
But
be.
the pipe that's put in there is more than capable of handling that flow.
The 54 can take probably more than the 50 MGD. And again, it was sized to keep pressure loss down, to keep pumping down. So as pumping gets more efficient and all that kind of stuff, then it's kind of a balancing act.
Thank you.
Basically, looking at it as in a series of kind of black boxes. You got the ocean water you start out with. The first is a pre-treatment, basically filtering out the big stuff, the sand, the particulates, and then the reverse osmosis. And from there, you get ultra-pure water. Matter of fact, it's too pure. It's corrosive. So the third step is actually very important to us. It's basically conditioning and disinfection. So it's adding some salt back into the water, so that therefore it's not corrosive to our infrastructure, and also disinfection, so it meets our disinfection standards. And then finally, it's brought to you. So it's a fairly simple and straightforward process. With that, it's basically an endless water source. And the water quality will be superior from the Colorado River water. It'll be similar to a state water project as far as the water quality. It'll increase service reliability. Despite drought, the Pacific Ocean is still there. There's still water there, and the pipeline is only 10 miles away. So it's local control. And it's also an emergency source in case the aqueducts are shut down. We still are receiving water from the desal plant, ideally. And it will minimize impact to our customers during mandatory drought restrictions under normal circumstances. With that, the Water Authority is obviously the primary owner in the plant in the public-private partnership. They have a water purchase agreement, and there'll be a desal blended at the Water Authority facilities up by Twin Oaks. So every member agency is going to be receiving some blended supply of desal water. Vallecitos and the city of Carlsbad are actually the only two agencies that are taking desal direct. We're taking about 3,500 again, and I don't know where Carlsbad ended up, I believe
2,500.
2,500. Commitment to desal is currently more expensive, however, and commitment to desal does count towards our drought-proof supply, though. So with that, if you look at this, and I know the board's aware of this, back in the drought in the 1990s, you can see that the water supply in the region was primarily from Metropolitan Water District, and after Miracle March in 1992, Southern California and San Diego especially kind of embarked on a massive water supply portfolio expansion. And you can see what happened between then and 2012, and again, what's projected in 2020. Even with the increased water consumption in the area, the amount of water being imported directly from Metropolitan Water District has actually been reduced. So, with that, let's see what this looks like in our system. If you see kind of the yellow hatching here, that's Vallecitos' boundaries kind of overlaid on this map. You can see the desal at the plant and the roughly 10 miles of pipe that comes from the plant by the ocean over to Vallecitos Water District. The blue lines that you see are aqueduct pipes and how they kind of spread out through the system. What you see here is our Twin Oaks reservoirs that we talked about, our 40 and 33 million gallon tank, and this is basically the approximate location of that. Our desal connection is right here kind of in the heart of the system, right kind of in the, off of Cherokee, Pawnee, just east of Rancho Santa Fe Road, kind of in the industrial area of the, just south of the freeway. So graphically, this is what it looks like. You got the same exact setup. You can see the water moving normally from the plant into pipeline 3, P3, which is this area right here, and it'll move up where the treatment plant is, mix, and go back down pipeline 4. From there, we'll take our normal water deliveries through our 33 and 40 million gallon tanks, so we'll get a blended supply. We'll also have a direct connection with desal right there, close to our downtown area. So a couple pictures of desal plant.
James,
Yes, ma'am.
back on that slide, it's probably a really obvious question, but I was just looking, how, does pipeline 3 run in both directions? Is that what you're?
Yes.
It does now.
It does now.
That's what we've done.
Yeah, so they have
Okay.
the ability to move it down pipeline 3 and 4, and they've lined pipeline 3 to pressurize it to move it up to Twin Oaks.
Okay. Thank you.
So just a few pictures of the construction of the pipeline, and of course the desal. The picture kind of up here, upper corner here, is actually the membranes themselves. And I tried to get a September 2015 picture, but then I realized it would just be a building, so I wouldn't really show you much. So you kind of see the evolution of the site. With that, the total cost, and this is in 2012 dollars, I'm sure it's gone up a little bit since then, is over $1 billion. And with that, it's over $2,000 an acre feet. So the water is more expensive, and Vallecitos has been planning for this with the expected 3,500 acre feet of water that we're going to be taking. As far as how will desal be integrated into our system, well, it is a new water source. Again, it's coming from the west. While we normally take water from the north and move it south, potential customers may notice difference in taste and odor. And as water changes its blend, you go from a high concentration of desal to a lower concentration. So we needed to study this, the blending in different conditions. We simulated and we isolated the water, basically by running the models and closing valves and seeing what would happen. And we did several different evaluations, and we evaluated during the winter time where we have low demand. We evaluated during the summertime, obviously, where we had the highest demand, and we did current. What would happen today? We also did in the future. What would happen in 20 years? So we had an understanding and a strategy of how to manage this. And basically, we have some recommended operational goals that we've talked to operations about, and some water testing and water quality kind of setup on what we're going to embark to see how that water is blending and where it's going. As far as water, yes, sir?
Yes.
Sorry, I got a question. I asked this the other day of the general manager. He answered me, but a beer, people that are making beer, or beer distillers, and our food preparation. For instance, I've always heard that San Francisco sourdough bread is better than anyone else's because of the water. I've heard that. Now, we know that's probably not. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's probably not true. But what can happen to bakeries or food producing or beer producing entities with this changing of water?
Well, the good news for the beer producers is they actually put all their water through an RO and a filtration system because they have to have consistent water quality all the time. So they start out with really pure water no matter what water quality they get, and then they add whatever they need to add to the water. As far as food prep and food industries, I really don't know.
But will the beer people have to know, because like you said, they change what they put in compared to what's coming out,
Because it
No.
goes through their filtration no matter what.
and no matter what, it's the same?
Yeah.
No matter what you put in the front end,
Yeah.
the filtration's good enough to,
They have a reverse osmosis system, and so they're gonna take all the conditioning and the disinfectants, they're gonna take that out, and it's gonna be back to reverse osmosis water before they input whatever they need to input for their beer.
The good part about it is, as James mentioned earlier, is right now, we're getting we're getting all Colorado River water. So we're getting our TDS up around 650, which is very high. And what it's doing is pushing us at Meadowlark, because we're only allowed to go to the import plus 500, to getting TDS of discharge of 1150 to 1175, and we have a maximum of 1200 that we could go, then we can't sell the reclaimed water. So this will actually be, by keeping part in the downtown area, this waste will go to the treatment plant, and because this is purer water, it's gonna bring the TDS down.
Yeah.
So it'll actually help us. What they're gonna be getting is more water that when we used to be all state water project water, they would blend it to keep it down in the 450, 500 ranges, give or take it. So you're gonna be, I think, 350 is what I'm hearing.
250 to 350.
250 to 350 on this water, so it'll just be better quality. The big difference they're gonna feel is the washing,
Softness.
is the softness. That'll be the big difference.
it's gonna be softer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 3,500 acre feet of desal water will be blended, and the blending will be variable. Study was done for VWE to evaluate the water quality, and what we did was we hired a consultant, and they evaluated the study that was done for CWA, the study that was done for Carlsbad, and then Poseidon did their own study on water quality and how it works, and they applied it to our system. And they had several different comments and recommendations, but the resulting concerns were the following bullets. Basically boron, which is basically a chemical or a naturally occurring element within the water that's higher in salt water than it is in natural water, and it may affect certain ornamental plants. And also could be an issue for meadowlark at higher limits. So we need to educate and identify the times where this could be an issue. Bromide, it needs to be monitored due to potential disinfectant. So basically, we need normal water testing. We need to add chlorine if we find that the bromide's getting in the way or affecting our disinfectant. And then, of course, general taste and odor changes that may be detected by the public. And this one was more, there was no definitive answer on this one. This is more of a perception issue. So with that, we wanted to find out where and how these taste and odor issues may occur. So we normally move water again from the north to the south. The desal water may come from the west and blend with our system. Seasonal changes, obviously summertime is our higher use. That means there'll be less desal as a percentage within our system, while in the wintertime, our system's going to be a pretty high desal percentage. For the customers, the change in blend can occur daily, weekly, or monthly. And sudden changes may cause them to notice taste and odor differences. And it'd be a perceived problem, which could increase phone calls and complaints. So water blending models were run by staff. We actually did several models. And today we're really going to just show you three. And with that, the three models are all current conditions. The base is the first one we're going to show you. And basically, that's no change to the system. We add desal and see what happens during the winter, winter, spring, summer, and fall throughout the year. Option A is we close a couple valves and we kind of isolate the desal water to the west end of the district and see what happens. And option B is we basically push water to the south. And these options were done to try and control the spread of desal water to see if we could get consistent blending and basically the same customers, the same ratepayers, seeing similar percentages of desal water, not going from full Colorado River water to full desal water within a day or a month or a week, and that's where you see problems. Models were also ran during the ultimate, so 20 years in the future or so, to establish basically growth strategies in managing the desal water. So with that, I'm going to show you three videos, and I'll kind of walk you through them. And the models were done in-house, but we used a PR firm to help us make the videos, because if not, you'd be looking at about 24 still pictures, and that'd be kind of boring, so. Okay, hopefully this works. Okay, so here you start out kind of with the district, and we highlighted a few areas for you to look at, kind of get references. This top area is kind of the Paloma area off of Borden and Las Posas. You got Lake San Marcos and San Leandro Hills. Here are the major freeways and the colleges, so now we all have a reference point. Here's desal coming in, and it kind of spreads throughout the system, okay? So you can see the spread of desal just without changing anything. It's fairly right in the heart of our system where a lot of population is. The red is the less than 25% mix. The purple here is your 25 to 50% mix. The blue is your 50 to 75% mix, and then the green is your high percentage, your 75 to 100% mix. Again, desal's coming in here, and this is the winter time. So as you change seasons over to the spring, you'll see the desal spread's different. Up here in this Paloma area, some people aren't getting any desal, and then you still have this red area of some desal, and of course you have the difference. So you have neighbors getting different water quality depending on the season. The purple here, which is the lower blend desal, kind of spreads throughout the Lake San Marcos and Rancho Santa Fe area. And then you still have a little bit of blue sporadically. And then, of course, the green is fairly consistent down into the Coronado Hills and kind of what I call the industrial area over here where desal comes in. So obviously in the summertime is our highest use. You're going to see the desal spread a lot more red. That means you're getting a lot more regular water coming in through our system from the north or through our aqueduct connections. And you can see this whole area is now red, and you have almost no desal water in the Paloma area, and a lot more purple, but you still have a lot of green next to the distribution system, both in the Coronado Hills and.
Can you pause it for a second, James?
Yeah.
Very trick presentation, really.
It took a lot of work.
Very, very nice. Thanks to your engineering department. I'm sure IT is great. Am I to assume that San Alejo is going to be getting its water from the Liebenhain?
Yes,
Yes.
the water really doesn't get over the hill,
Yeah.
except for maybe at the top of San Diego, where it blends a little bit.
Well, and that stays constant.
Mhm.
So it's a Liebenhain water that we got from a Liebenhain that came to them raw, but we purchased from them processed.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. That's very true.
There's alternatives, but like I said, it's fun doing these hydraulic models. If you're an engineer, it's a lot of fun.
But the still pictures just doesn't.
Still pictures just don't
Just
quite
don't
cut
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
That's
So
fine.
very tricky.
So with the summer demands, you have a lot more red and purples, but the greens stay pretty consistent. So the Coronado Hills area and over by the college stays fairly high desal. The fall is similar to the spring, except you do have some more use in the fall. And again, the Paloma area, you see a little bit more water coming back into that area. You see a lot less red, more purple throughout Lake San Marcos, and you still see just a little bit of blue, and really you can see that the green stays fairly consistent in the area.
Director Eleazar?
Yeah, and I had a question on Coronado Hills. Why does that stay so high? Is that a very large pipeline
So
crossing?
there's a large transmission main that goes right down to that, and there's a pump station that takes right off that transmission main. So it drags the water down, basically.
Thank you.
So. And so the fall conditions are similar to spring. The next video, and the next video goes a little faster since the first video we added some extra time to kind of set it up, is really a condition. You'll see it's very similar. However, now we've closed two valves, and the valves kind of float into it so you can see it. We've closed two valves to kind of move the water and isolate it. So here it is again, the same areas are being shown. Here come the road and the freeway. And in this case here, we're closing two valves, right here and right here. And we're basically isolating that water and pushing water from our Twin Oaks down to the south, which isolates the desal water to the west end of our system. So as you can see, it's a smaller area, a large concentration of high desal blend through this whole kind of area. Now this is a main pipe that comes down, and that's why you'll see this stay green up in the kind of the upper neighborhood, the higher elevation neighborhood within Lake San Marcos. During the spring, there's very little change. same people are getting the same water, the blend changes a little bit around Rancho Santa Fe, but really, right in this heart area of the residents here and industrial area, the water stays constant. And again, the summer area, which is kind of the worst case scenario as far as the spread of desal water, you can see the same customers are still getting desal water, the blend changes slightly. So,
Mr. Personnel?
James, on all these models, I've noticed like some of our customers that are in the Carlsbad area,
Mhm.
off of like Melrose and Olga and that area, and even off of San Leo Hills Road, like I think it's Oak Creek.
Mhm.
I didn't see it light up at all. Is that just because you're only focusing on San Marcos with this presentation?
No, the
or
desal-
they're just not getting it?
yeah, the desal water won't get there. We're not pushing desal water over the hill unless we really need to, because we'd be incurring additional pumping costs to do that.
Okay, so that's good to know though. If we get questions of.
Yeah, well,
They're not- it's not
once we
gonna
get
impact
closer,
them.
we will have it, and there's a whole, I'll talk a little more about the testing that Ed's gonna do, plus a research project that we've signed on to with water reuse because of this.
In the same regard, so there's a great bit of the district above Paloma North that's not gonna get desal.
Now, everybody will get a blended
A
desal.
little bit,
Mhm.
a little bit, but less than zero, maybe? You're zero, you only give me less than.
Less than
Greater than,
25%.
less than 25%.
It'll be an average of 7%. So during the winter months, it'll be quite high, or much higher, but, and there's some months it could be almost non-detectable, close to zero, but it'll be an average of 7% for everybody in the district. And then these are the areas where our direct desal really affects.
So my question really, it's not that the water can't get there, like in Carlsbad. So let's say we had the disaster and we lose water from Aqueduct, and now we really are just relying on Olevenhain and the desal. How do you then, where does the water go that it now goes to everybody? You just pump it over?
Yeah, so the
I guess I'm confused. by
So the
how you're
Olevenhain
controlling
connection
it.
would kind of handle the south.
Okay.
If you think about the hills, that kind of separates San Luis Hills and the hill on Rancho Santa Fe Road, everything south. And the Olevenhain area would really feed that system, which is kind of those tanks that are above Rancho Santa Fe Road, and of course all the tanks in San Luis Hills.
Okay.
While the desal water would basically feed the downtown area, and we'd still have Twin Oaks, water within Twin Oaks feeding kind of the northern area. And the desal water would have to supplement depending on, if it was summertime, the Twin Oaks water would come and supplement everybody else.
I see.
The way that hydraulically works is like your electrical outlet. When you plug something in, turn it in, that's where the power goes. It's all sitting in the system. And so the way hydraulics work is, what James has done is said, we're gonna put all of that water in at this big valve right here, our water meter. And so the demand in that area fluctuates up and down, but it's always enough to take that full demand. Now, if all he did was dump it all in and just leave everything open, you see how it went kind of willy-nilly in different directions,
first
because that's where the demand is. And as Director Elkhart pointed out, the pump station off that big pipe says, okay, it's gonna follow the path of least resistance. It's gonna go down the big pipe. So that's what we're trying to do, is to keep it from doing that. But let's say we lost the aqueduct. The water coming in that connection right there is at our 950 hydraulic grade line, which is basically the entire southern part from, you know where the golf course is? Not golf course, where do you buy beer after you play golf? Clubhouse. Where the clubhouse is, I had put it in terms I can
like the way
understand.
you correlated that.
You know, that's how I equate it.
Yeah.
From there down is what we call the 920 pressure zone. So if James took all this water at this point and put it in and we didn't have any other water, it would eventually completely saturate the whole downtown area. Because that would be the demand, it would just take the whole area. So the water goes where the demand is. That's hydraulically how it works.
And the way the models are set up is based on the average demand in the winter, the average demand in the summer, the average demand in the spring, the average demand in the fall. So there'll be days, like in the winter where it's raining, where that water will spread further, because we're not taking any other water from anywhere else.
Well, this is an amazing presentation.
Well, you got one more
But the
video.
actual hydrology of it just blows me away with how you figured this all out.
Well,
Guys do a lot of work.
Rob Scholl from my staff, he is a modeler, and he did the models, so I gotta give him credit for running the models. And then working with Chris and NV5, they made it into a video, so. So as you can see in the summertime, you still have basically the same customers receiving desal water. It's very consistent, it's very isolated. And I'll just kind of skip the fall because it's very similar and go to the third, or the option B, what we call. So with option B, again, same setup, same areas called out. And this time we're isolating one valve and we're pushing the water south. So here comes the desal water, and here's the valve right here, closing, and we push the water south along our main lines. And now you can see really Lake San Marcos gets a light blend in the wintertime, and most of the water is going into the Coronado Hills area and in and around College and Discovery Hills, with the major blend being right here. So in the spring, the water changes, but the same customers are essentially affected. So you can see the red gets a little bit more spread out in this case. You have a little bit more blue, which is that kind of that 50% mix, because you really don't see a lot of that. And then, of course, Coronado Hills itself and the kind of the College area still gets a fairly high blend of desal water. And then in the summertime, when we have our greatest water demand, you can see that the colors really do change a lot. But it's the same customers again. You have more red, you definitely have more purple. The blue kind of gets shrunk down a little bit and kind of encroaches on what the higher blend, which is the green. But still, because of the pump station, the Coronado Hills area remains a high percentage of desal water.
And Director Martin.
So does that mean, looking at your modeling here, which is awesome, the northeastern quadrant, let's call it, I've never seen a line go over there, so there'd be at about 7% normally?
Yes. Yes. So,
That's the
yeah, if it
norm.
says gray, it's getting 0 from this direct connection. It's just getting the water from Twin Oaks, which we kind of set up earlier, and it'll get the blended water.
See, and part of this, the way we're modeling it, some of the questions asked earlier about food, the restaurant row, and the breweries are all in the triangle. The only, excuse me, the only two customers we're even remotely concerned about from the agricultural standpoint is the nursery, Green Thumb, and Briggs to the south. So depending on how we choose to run the water, we kind of take those variables just out of the equation, because we can just put it into an area where we don't have to worry about affecting restaurants or the food or brewery or the two agricultural. And it keeps it purely to the residents. But on the other hand, I think some of the beer, those other guys, they actually may prefer to have better quality water. So we've got some excuse me, we've got some flexibility in how we're going to do it. It's just see what people say and where it goes.
Director Sinella.
It's an interesting dynamic, and this is a great presentation. I know we've had discussions about upgrading our video systems. And I know it's not a high priority and it costs a lot of money, so it probably won't get done anytime soon, but I would have loved to have had, I don't know if you've ever watched our video online, but it doesn't show the presentations very well. It wouldn't do this justice, so this is really good. But it kind of got me kind of thinking here, because last week we attended a forum at Cal State San Marcos on the psychology of water, and although everything I've heard has been overwhelmingly positive about desal coming online, I think the public is definitely has embraced it and looking forward to it. But now I'm kind of thinking, because one of the areas here in the much of our Carlsbad customers are in my division, right? And I was thinking, okay, well, when I'm out there speaking, I can tell them, well, hey, you're not really going to have a whole lot of desal water less than 7%. But then I started thinking, well, that psychology piece of it, they might be, well, I want desal water. What do you mean I can't have desal water? So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. And
Yep. We actually were going to take 7,500 originally. That was our demand, and Ed was losing weight nonstop worrying because he didn't have anywhere to put it in the wintertime.
yeah,
And-
sometimes you tell somebody that they're not going to get something that somebody else is going to get,
Then they want
and
it.
Then you want it.
Well,
it gets interesting.
And I think to add to that, especially when they're gonna say, but I'm paying more for my water because it's desal and now I'm not getting it, because that's
Yeah.
gonna be a reality.
That's when we tell them, well, that's why you get a blend everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
So-
but you're absolutely right, there's a psychology to this, and we'll hold it. Now, what's gonna be funny, and I'll guarantee this is gonna happen, and we've got some other recommendations on 2 workshops, we've got the memo and everything else, is before we even get any desal water, we will get complaints about the change in the water quality because of the desal water.
It's gonna be interesting.
Guarantee you that.
Well, my video froze. So, here's technology.
You get the idea.
So,
We
so
got
I'm
the
going
idea.
to, I'm gonna try and move past the video here.
Now, this presentation, of course, is gonna be one that James and the team are gonna be out and about when they go speak to folks.
Mhm.
Hopefully, we'll be able to join them occasionally. Will this be online, or is this something we're gonna kinda keep more?
Oh, we can
discussed,
definitely
or-
put it online and have links to it. And then we have 2 public workshops that we're going to be scheduling in the evening to bring the public in, and if anybody wants us to come talk to them. That's why this thing is geared more towards a whole, you've heard 90% of it already, but we weren't gearing it towards you. This is what we're gearing towards, showing the public and how we'll do it.
Yeah, unless it was, the videos were narrated, and, James
It
would be
would- it would
papers
be
to
tough.
do it, it would be tough
Yeah.
just for somebody, even us, if it was just showing us, it would look like, Christmas lights, right?
That's not a bad idea to look at.
But if it was narrated, then it could,
We'll look at that.
Mhm.
Yeah, you probably want somebody with a better voice than I to narrate it.
Well, the gal with the NV5's got the perfect voice for it.
Okay,
We'll look at
so, the last thing that I just skipped was just the fall for that last option, which is similar to the spring setup. So as far as the result, this was actually a very fun exercise for the engineers, mainly Rob. But it did provide some valuable information. We have a better operational understanding of how desal water blends within our system. We have winter and summer strategies, as well as current and future understanding. And I didn't show the 3, we ran several models, but I didn't show the 3 future models because it'd be a very long presentation. And one of the examples is moving the desal water away from Meadowlark if that boron limit starts becoming an issue. We can move it into the Coronado Hills area, for example. Providing tools to minimize customer impacts. We want to have an understanding of where that water quality, and these are perceived impacts, the taste and odor, where those changes would happen. We could isolate where they happen. We could go to those communities, explain to them, educate them. Doesn't mean we're not going to get complaint calls, but at least we could get in front of it. Provide PR tools to educate customers on what to expect, if any, changes. And basically what we're looking at is also doing and scheduling public workshops. So right now, I think they're tentative, I don't know if they're set in stone, but we're looking at October 6th and November 2nd here. So,
That's the tentative that we're looking at.
and it'd be,
We'll notify everybody.
October 6th, that's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Or for next year,
no, this year.
this
This
year,
year.
okay.
Yeah, and this would be a similar presentation for the public, because this way they'd have an understanding of our system overall. There'd probably be some more base slides on this is who we are, this is what we do. And then, of course, educating them on our Twin Oaks facilities, our water facilities, what desal is, and then getting into how we're going to integrate it. With that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I just have one, and once again, it just might be a confusion on my part, but we've agreed that we're going to direct purchase this 3,500 acre feet a year. So is that divided out on a monthly basis, that we have to take X amount per month? And if-
Constant flow,
Huh?
constant flow.
Constant flow?
Yep.
So let's say we find out that we want to take more, but we haven't direct purchased it, then what, we're just buying the water from?
Yeah, there's 2 components. If you recall, they put all of the capital and all of the costs on the 48,000 acre feet, even though
Right.
we can do 54,000 acre feet. And because we're a direct purchase, we actually get, what percent is it?
4,000, we get 4,000 acres, we get another 500.
We get another 500 acre feet on top of that, but we get it at a very cheap cost because
Okay.
it's just the cost of producing.
About $700 an acre.
About $700 an acre foot compared to the
2,400.
2400, whatever.
22.
So
Actually,
it's quite a bit cheaper that we get that extra water, but the same thing, the way that plant makes its money, which is the way it's operating,
It's
is they operate it at a constant rate of flow. And, because if they go up and down on the production, it changes their operating costs, so we take it at a constant flow. Now, what they have said is in the summer months, if we need more during a short time to offset taking less in the winter month, they will work with us on doing that.
Okay.
So they're not gonna be that nitpicky, they're gonna basically give us a little bit of flexibility to work within it. But we get 4,000 acre feet basically, because we get an extra 500 at a much cheaper rate.
And also to go on the flip side of that, if we get into a situation where we have lots of rain events and we have very little demand, we have to pay for it, but we always have the option of sending our water up Pipeline 3 and taking it out at Twin Oaks.
Yes.
But you pay a wheeling charge.
Yeah.
But in case we cannot take the water during multiple rain events in the winter, that is a fallback option.
And that's why we took our own connection ones, get our own independent connection. We get credit as a local supply. If we were to take it through the pipe and put it in Twin Oaks, what we'd just be getting is a plain old blend like everybody else. And then we'd have to pay, I can't remember what it came out to per acre foot, $175 more an acre foot for a wheeling cost to move it to Twin Oaks. Same as they charge Met, they would charge us.
Yes.
Just to
Director
follow up on
Martin.
that, does that make it easier for Ed? Ed orders our water, doesn't he? Because there's a constant flow coming from there, so he still only has to deal with Met. He doesn't have to deal with them because he knows what you're getting from them.
Yeah, they're actually,
Theoretically?
Ed, if you want to come up and address how you order water, I know they've had some operating head meetings, and now they're going to roll that into it a little bit.
Yeah, for the operators to take a constant flow there, that's not really a problem because there's internal flow control facilities. The water we're purchasing from the San Diego County Water Authority, the other connections, that they can move it around. So over the years, our system's been built through actually
Pretty
back when
robust,
Dennis was an
yeah.
engineer and was designing all this stuff. We linked everything together and were able to move that water, as James said, from the north to the south. So whatever additional demand is above and beyond, it's going to be about 5 cubic foot per second constant. The operators will just make changes internally. So there's not going to be a whole lot of changes they have to make as far as how they operate the system.
But the amount of water you're getting per month and the bill that we're gonna see in front of us per month, it's gonna stay basically the same.
Yeah.
The amount will stay the same.
Yeah.
Mets will change
Yeah.
up and down, but this one,
This one stays, this
Stays
is
the
constant.
same.
Yeah.
And the way the water authority works, they have a contractual agreement with Met to take a certain amount into the county. So it's going to actually make it more difficult for the San Diego County Water Authority to run their system because they also have a contract with CH2M Hill to run that plant. So, yeah, they have a headache, not us so much.
right.
You would just take less
Yeah,
flow
from the
through,
others.
through the normal connections to take this water.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
Director
keep a
Snow.
pretty constant flow through that connection at our Vallecitos 9 over there where we're connecting in with the desal water. They typically just leave that at a constant flow anyway, so it really isn't gonna change operations that much.
Director Snow.
So, the timing of this coming online and this massive, potentially massive El Nino is, they're kind of right in line, right? So in the event that we do get this El Nino, and although it's not gonna solve our problems, I get that, we may not get a lot of snow, may not help out Northern California, but we might have a few months down here in San Diego County where people are not irrigating, agriculture is not buying water because they get free water from the sky. Obviously, the desal water is gonna continue to flow. Does that just mean that we buy a whole lot less from
The other
the
connections
imported water?
will go off as much as possible, which is one of the reasons when they told us 7,500 acre foot in water operations at the time, I dropped on the floor, because there's, even during normal conditions, it's difficult for us to keep that amount coming into the downtown area. So that's why you only see 3,500.
Ed could have done it.
Not without another pump station.
Yeah, in our other fallback, Dr. Snell, is we at Twin Oaks, again, where I said the pressure breaks at the clubhouse, is our fallback position. If we would have gone to the 7,500 acre feet, we would have built another pump station right there. And what we would have done is taken the water into the system, pumped it up, put it in Twin Oaks, and then let it go to the entire water district. Then we would have just blended it everywhere. We would have built a pump station, because it was cheaper to build a pump station than pay the wheeling cost to the water authority.
But we're not on any commitment to buy a certain amount of water from
No.
the imported water.
No.
It's just whatever we need.
Whatever we need, we just quit buying if we're getting too much rain.
Yeah, they don't have a minimum for us. A maximum, yes, we're allocated only so much, but we're not even close to that.
So the other things, Ed's already set up, and they'll be working towards a sampling program over the next year, just to see what the changes are, see what it is or isn't. The other thing, we signed a letter of intent, I guess that's what you could call it, and Water Reuse is doing a research paper on the impacts of taking desal water directly into a water system and how it blends. Are there things that are noticeable? Because they don't have any information on it. I mean, there's stuff overseas, but the water's totally different. So it's the first research paper that'll actually be done. So we've put in our letter saying we would commit equal staff time to give them the information they need in the testing so they can help with research on this in the future as there's more plants get built. So again, that's for information today for the board, so you can see all the cool things they do, and then we'll have the 2 workshops. We'll get you information on those once we firm up the dates. They'll be in the evening, and then we'll put it on the website, put out flyers and everything else to get as much attendance as we can.
Right,
If I could make a
Dr. Martin?
recommendation, I would just recommend that perhaps you call up the city manager and give a presentation to the city council at one
Sure.
of their meetings. 'Cause
I think we're gonna probably doing a lot of them.
But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, they would want to know about it, and then if they want more information, because that usually gives you 15 or 20 minutes.
Sure.
Then they can come to one of our workshops, but to let them know, because people are asking them questions, obviously, because everyone thinks that they run the water authority.
Yeah, no, I'll give Jack a call and offer that.
Yeah, just a great idea to let them
You
know
bet.
first. And it's second, you're on the forefront, because if I'm figuring this out correctly, not being an engineer, if we build a few thousand of these plants, then global warming and rising of the sea, that won't happen. We're taking the water out of the sea and putting it onto ag.
We have to put a plug on Encina and push it back out.
So you're on the forefront,
But
you're on the
you're working
forefront.
on it, they're working on it, you can tell.
You're on the forefront.
More questions?
I-
Wait, oh, yes,
comment.
Director.
You'd mentioned that elevated levels of boron have an effect, I think you said, on ornamental plants. From my experience, it's also detrimental to some ag crops as well, like citrus and avocado, so might want to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, we'll get the
Look at that.
reports.
So typically a higher level than what we're supposed to see, but that's also why we're going to be doing a lot of testing. We're actually getting ready to do benchmark testing in the area that we think that desal water will permeate, and so what we have right now is coming from the water authority, so we say, okay, this is what we have, and then once the desal comes online, we're talking about probably at least a year's worth of testing as well, and we can trace it that way, knowing this is what we have. Now we see this coming in at what levels throughout the season.
Well, thank you. I want to say thanks to the district, even prior, for having foresight on the, not taking the 75, but giving us that option still, and for being so
Hopefully in 10
proactive
years,
in
we'll
it.
be
It's
in a
really,
point to take it.
Yeah.
it's really nice and comforting to see, oh, wow, I can show you what we're doing. But we do have a speaker in the audience, if you wouldn't mind. And it's Mike Hunsaker.
For the record, Mike Hunsaker. Desalinized water promises quite a bit, and I was rather surprised that a large company would even build an RO desal plant in California, considering environmental standards, and it was quite an achievement to do so, and somewhat of a risk on the part of Poseidon. Now, Poseidon is a corporation which bets that in the future, inflation will produce quite high profits. And I would say that they're probably over a 20-year horizon, pretty good bet. But it does mean, because of the pricing, that the cost of the desal water could skyrocket if inflation skyrockets. There are a number of costs that are sensitive to inflation that are involved. And the first one is power. Reverse osmosis is a power hog. And as a consequence, you have a lot of cap and trade costs involved with the cost of power, which in turn means that you are going to have potentially a large amount of cost increases. Plus, there's accelerators for inflation in the purchase of the plant. I think that 2008 is the base year for costs. So there's a little bit of caution one should use if you go charging into reverse osmosis. That said, reverse osmosis is not the ideal way to desalinize water in Southern California. Flash distillation, which is commonly used in pretty much all ships and in other large facilities around the world, uses the waste heat from a power plant to distill the water. This has a couple of big advantages. Number one, it uses waste heat, which is the primary cost of any desal project. It is much more environmentally friendly since you're using waste heat. And it should be pointed out that Poseidon, the plant in Carlsbad, is right next door to a power plant. It should have been a reverse, not a reverse osmosis, but it should have been a flash distillation system. Flash distillation also gets rid of the bromide and boron problems. That's an issue. And for my division, District Division 1, your distribution plan shows that Division 1 is going to be bearing a disproportionate amount of the increased cost of desal water because it will use less than the rest of the district. So we are going to end up potentially subsidizing the other divisions. I hope that we, going forward, if we do go charging down the desal path, we do a little more consideration of what future trends would be. As far as the desal, I am for it. The ag issue has been brought up. And it is a big issue if you have any sort of trees or grasses, because you have to periodically leach out the salts. This is something that will be a long-term issue that we need to get to. And desal with a softer chemical composition is going to be a big factor in agriculture, and there is a great deal of interest in buying up and converting land to pure agricultural use. So what do these investors know that we don't? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item is 3.3. Dennis?
Yes, thank you. This was brought forth by the board at the last time, requested by Director Sinella. We heard from the person that our point of contact earlier this week and said they could not make the presentation. So, if you, with the board's pleasure, I'll just table this to some future board meeting.
That's great. Item 3.4 is also yours, Dennis.
Yeah, it was requested at the last board meeting to bring this forward for a per diem for the three meetings that CSU San Marcos is putting on as part of their program for the water, basically the water series. I believe 4 of you did attend the last one, which was the
Psychology one?
psychology of water delivery based upon academic views of it. The next 2 coming up are looking like they're going to be pretty good as far as the people that are going to be on the panels. CSU San Marcos is not one of the organizations that's approved for a per diem in the current policy. And if the board would like to receive a per diem for going to it, they just need to take action. They're authorized to do that. The policy authorizes the board to do that without modifying the ordinance, just by amended action. So if the board wants to do it, we don't need to modify the ordinance. You just need a motion and a second and then affirmative vote.
Board, Director
If I
Martin?
may add to that, all 4 directors that weren't in Hawaii went to it. It was very informative. Of course, we would have rather been in Hawaii.
Well, you know what's really interesting, Director Martin? I did go to a water forum while I was in Hawaii, and I will be asking for expenses.
It was a waterfall?
I will do a full.
Under a waterfall?
Hey, as I learned, you can get mileage. Oh, we have to drive.
I did drive. I have one of those cars that took me. Okay.
Anyhow, after attending this, I thought it was great to see what our staff has really started over there, although this is an offshoot of what our staff has started over there. It's really great and directional. I got a lot of information out of it from the moderator, Lee Brown, a lot of doctors, Wesley Schultz, very interesting. And I thought it very well worthwhile and not something that I would go to if I were not sitting on the Water Authority Board. So therefore, I move that we do get paid for the trilogy of forums at the university.
Yeah, and I'll second that with some comments that I was there as well, and I will say from an educational standpoint, and obviously, you know, from a time commitment standpoint, it was no different than any of the other different water education series that we go to every single month. So I think it's definitely kind of meets the one-time kind of exclusion, if you will, to the rule.
Yeah, like I said, all the board, the policy allows you to do it by minute action. You don't need to modify the policy. So you have a
For the
second.
water symposium.
Yeah.
Presented at this, did you have something to say?
No, I just wanted to add, I thought overall it was really good, but particularly the Pure Water Program presentation by
San Diego.
City of San Diego. I think they've got that really well honed down, so they sent a really nice message to non-technical people, so.
That's what they're trying to do, and we're gonna work with them before the next presentation, because the whole goal, again, is if all you do is get water folk, like you were talking about, if all you do is get water folk to come to the presentations, preaching to the choir, might as well take some sand to the beach with you. So that's the whole intent of why this is going through the CSU San Marcos Foundation, right? So it's not extended learning that we've been working with, it's actually through the foundation part, because they got some separate money to fund it, and their whole theory is they want to reach out to the public to get the public in there. So we're going to try to help them get some better circulation out on getting normal people in there, instead of just the people who always.
Yeah,
You see-
and I'll say, because that's something I look at the audience, sorry. I always look at the audiences that at all the events that we go to, and there were a few water people, but overwhelmingly, there was a nice balance
Yeah.
between just local residents that were concerned. There was quite a few students there that may be interested in getting involved in water and technology and all the stuff that goes along with it. So I thought it was just a great forum overall, and the audience was very diverse.
Well, I simply wanted to say I was very proud of you for showing, and I would have loved to have been there. And my only question simply was, how big was the audience, and what, do we have an idea of the
Actually, they
distribution?
said 70. I thought I was thinking 50, but Lee
70-ish.
told me, Dr. Brown told me it was between 70 and 80 in
That's
attendance.
fantastic, and I'm sure the next one will have a few more because.
It
of
will
word
be.
of
I had
mouth.
lunch with Dr. Brown today, just to kind of go over it, plus where the next one is, and we're trying to get the last moderator, Gary from Rancho, not Rancho,
Valley Center?
Valley Center was
Valley
talking to
Center.
Tim Quinn, so we're trying to get Tim Quinn down from Aqua to moderate the next panel.
Yeah. Oh.
So that's what our whole goal is, to get some good statewide attention.
Okay. Well, the next one is on October 14th.
Yep.
I will be cutting the trip to Colorado short, so I can be here for it. And we have a motion and a second to approve. This is the motion in front of us. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I have something to add. The third one is on November 18th, which is the same time as a board meeting, same day. and
Yes, it is.
Almost the same time.
Actually, it's at 6:30, so it'll be a short meeting.
So we'll make that a short board meeting.
Well, I was just gonna ask, unless there's pressing issues.
Yeah, when we get closer, we'll see if we need it or not. So we'll either make it really short or not have it.
Right, because it is
Okay.
November, which is,
So
I
next
didn't
month,
realize
we
that
can
was
reconsider.
overlap.
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Good
Probably
point.
moderating that one.
It passes unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, reports.
I have no report. I'll keep my comments to the closed session on the claim.
Okay, District Legal Counsel.
Well, kind of I guess along the lighter side, last month, a case came down involving the Public Records Act request to a local school district. And the school district, the case is Newark Unified School District versus Brazil. Anyway, the case, the school district responded to the request and inadvertently included a bunch of attorney-client documents. Client documents were subject to an attorney-client privilege. Oh, did he talk about that?
Yeah, I was gonna
already?
say, unless there's an update to that, because it was being appealed, he did it last week.
Oh.
Sorry.
He stole your thunder.
He
Sorry.
stole
Stole your
thunder.
fire.
He stole your
Okay.
It was nice of you to be here. today.
Yeah, well,
Thank
you know,
Jeff.
thanks for letting me, you know.
We didn't want you to ramble.
Obviously,
Sorry.
I have, you know, I have
Don't
another
talk to
case,
your
but
partner.
I'm concerned that Blaze probably reported on that. too.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh.
That was easy.
San Diego County Water Authority, the next meeting is on the 24th, but there were two little things. One, John Kecker, was the lead attorney, and his partner Robert Van Nest, who worked with the San Diego Water Authority on the MWD litigation, was just listed as, they were listed as 2 of the top 100 lawyers in the state of California, and part of that was the mitigation with MWD that's talked about in their behalf. And that's through the the Daily Journal out of LA and Los Angeles for all legal professions in California. And then we also had a total of $195 million in bonds were refunded for the Water Authority. These were from 2008, 2010 issuances, and I believe it saved $15 million, or it's about 7.75%. And I wanted to say they were only willing to do that after our district accomplished. So that's it on the Water Authority. And CNA, James has nothing to say, Director Hernandez has nothing to say. Director Ellithorpe?
Yeah, I attended the Policy and Finance Committee on September 8th, and we considered, let me get my notes here, we considered recommending adoption of a drug and alcohol testing policy for employees operating commercial vehicles. It's kind of the main item in open session. Then we had 2 closed session items, one on labor negotiations and the other on the south parcel that's owned by EWA. So, that's it.
Excellent.
And their
All
board meeting's next Wednesday.
4.5, Directors' Reports on Travel or Conferences. Mr. Martin.
On September 3rd, Director Sonella and myself held a finance meeting here in the building. We met with the finance auditors. They gave us an update on where they're at. Everything seems to be flowing very, very well. We asked them a few pointed questions, and I think we're going to have one more meeting prior to it coming to the board.
They're shooting for November 14th or 15th. We'll verify, but I'll get you an email out. That'll be the meeting where you'll go over the draft before it comes as a final, then after that. So we'll
November 5th.
November 5th. That's what we're shooting for. We'll get you an email out to confirm that.
Okay.
Excellent.
So unless Director Snell has anything else on that one, well, he can give his report after, I'm sorry. On the 10th, let me go back, on the 9th, CSUSM we just spoke about, the psychology of water, very worthwhile. I think people should go to the next 2 in the series. It was very worthwhile. On the 10th was the San Diego North EDC, which I'll let Director Sonella because I forgot my notes. And then yesterday morning at CAWA, I learned some new technology that James should be proud of me for doing. Casey usually shows me all these things, but we've talked about it in different ways, the jet stream, and it's the atmospheric rivers that we have. Atmosphere, and this was given to us by Dr. Someone else who reported.
Three first names. Fred, Martin,
Yeah.
Ralph. Fred, Martin, Ralph.
Yeah, a very
Goes by
interesting,
Marty.
very, very interesting speaker. And talked about the atmospheric rivers and how the study of that is really determining more about the really serious wet weather conditions that we have. He also spoke of something else called integrated water vapor, which was something new, which I thought was interesting.
Kind of like the fugitive voters.
Yeah, kind of like if you took this room here and you went straight up through the atmosphere on a normal day, how much of that would actually be water vapor? And it turns out to be an inch or 2. Unless, of course, you were having an atmospheric river occurrence where you'd have feet of it. But very, very interesting and really brought to light, because everyone keeps talking about El Nino, and the more information we get, the more upset I get with people saying, well, the weatherman said. It's like, yeah, well, and this gentleman has a huge background. He's with NOAA for many, many years, and now he's just doing the study on this. And he had charts, wasn't quite as trick as your charts, but they were pretty nice charts that he showed up. We couldn't really see it well on that screen.
Yeah, I've actually asked him to see if we can get the presentation.
Yeah, I'd love to have that presentation here, because it was just really eye-opening and made you really, the understanding and the comprehension of what's going on and the size of it really just was great. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Personnel?
Yeah, as Director Martin indicated, I was also there at yesterday's meeting with regards to the atmospheric rivers. I call them rivers in the sky, but I guess the only thing I would add, separate from what Director Martin's already said, is that, you know, this is a developing science, it seems like, and they're learning a tremendous amount, and I really think this is gonna revolutionize the way that they kind of plan and predict things in the future, so it's gonna be interesting to see where they are in 10 years from now on that. I did go to the San Diego North EDC meeting as well last week, and the primary presentation for that event was, there was 5 different executive directors from the Main Street Associations. And so if you're not familiar with the Main Street Associations, most of them are running along the 101. And what these communities are doing is they've created these, I don't know if they're special districts or not, but they're like a special district, to where they're actually trying to kind of revitalize their main streets. When they explained to us is that when they built the freeway system, I-5, et cetera, it kind of took the passerbys off the main streets, right? Main Street America, and then now we just fly by at 70 miles an hour, and we may stop for gas, and that's about it. Well, they're trying to bring people back there, but also make them more walkable communities, kind of have a little bit more entertainment, but also farmer markets and all kinds of things. And they had Leucadia, Encinitas, Oceanside, Vista was there. I think I'm missing one. I think I'm forgetting
Cardiff's
one.
got a good one with the way it is.
Yeah, Cardiff was there, yeah.
Probably
So,
Cardiff.
really interesting concept. It's exciting, completely unrelated to water, but it was definitely interesting to hear. And the one thing I was, you know, as a local resident here in San Marcos, the thing that came to my mind, again, unrelated to water, but you know, San Marcos has been talking about doing the Creek District development for, I don't know, decades. And
25 years.
Hearing what our other communities are doing, and then having experience personally, I've seen recently what downtown Oceanside has turned into. I think as a city, and you know, again, this is not, you know, I could talk to our council members about this, but we're going to miss the boat. Our neighbors are starting to do some really cool things, and if we don't have our own little downtown to kind of compete with that, everybody, all those dollars, all those tax dollars and everything are going to go outside of our city. So hopefully, I know there's a tremendous amount of challenges with the Creek District, but hopefully we can get that ball rolling a
Well,
little bit quicker.
Jack actually hired one of the people away that did it.
I know,
Just
yeah, I
hired
met
her.
her too.
Yeah, just hired her.
She was at the meeting.
Yeah, she was at the
Yeah,
meeting.
Tess.
Yeah.
Tess.
Radcliffe or something, yeah.
Well, maybe we'll be the only Main Street with a water feature.
We might, well,
That
yeah,
makes
maybe.
sense.
Vista
So we
kind of
can try
has
it.
one over there too, right? But it's
No,
always
Vista
dry.
It's dry.
That's pretty.
It's pretty. You look along that park through there, it's nice.
Director Martin.
If I could add something to Director Sinella's, I think, yeah, it was very nice hearing it, and as I was listening to it, I'm thinking about San Marcos, and of course, I never knew until I came to the water district that we have a downtown, because the city doesn't know we have a downtown, but you all call a certain area downtown here. The city doesn't, but you guys do. But we don't have a downtown, we don't have a Main Street, we don't even have a location for it. So they're looking at building it at the creek, but because my mind is going, where can we put it, because we are losing dollars. So far, we don't have anything. We're an odd city because we don't have a downtown. Or a Main Street.
Yeah.
Although that new street that's going in is called Main Street, by the way. The one that's going out from, that'll be called Main Street.
All right, well, did you not, anything else?
I attended the North EDC meeting and the Council of Water Utilities, and I didn't have anything else to add.
They did a good job.
Yeah, they did.
Excellent, all right. 5.1 is the Aqua Fall Conference is coming up November 30th through December 4th, and if you haven't already notified Diane, she needs to know, and that will be in, I believe it's Indian Wells.
I had a question on that.
Yes.
I'm scheduled to go to that, but maybe Dennis, are we gonna go up on the 30th or the 1st? The first day seems like it's mainly just Aqua specific.
Usually,
business.
JPIA.
yeah, it's JPIA the
Okay.
first day. I usually go up that night. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're not involved with JPA committee,
Mhm.
you would be attending starting on Wednesday, because that's when the actual conference. is.
Starting on Wednesday or Monday?
Wednesday. Monday
Is
is
it
off
Wednesday?
with JPI.
Okay.
Tuesday.
Tuesday is all the committee.
Tuesday's business meetings, yeah.
Yeah.
Committee
And
meetings.
then
Okay.
Wednesday is when the actual conference is.
Okay, so just from a scheduling standpoint, so we would be either Wednesday and Thursday, or just Wednesday?
No, Wednesday, Thursday.
Come home
Wednesday,
Friday?
Thursday.
Wednesday,
Okay,
Thursday,
if
and
you'd
Friday
like.
morning.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But you're welcome to go to the committee meetings, they're open meetings on Tuesday. Real exciting.
A lot of time off of work already. It's a lot of time off of work already.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
Okay.
that's not on the committee. All right, director's comments or future agenda items? Seeing none, closed sessions.
Motion to go in, please?
We have a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
5-minute break?
I think we'll go, like a 5-minute break, and then we'll close.